Hey, what's up guys? Kool-Aid here. It's time for another weekly patch and news video. And I am going to change the name of the video from weekly update to weekly patch and news simply to avoid confusion. Make sure you guys realize this is not going to be a channel update or anything like that. So there is a lot of stuff to cover. The ESF update did come out today, and there is a lot of news. Most of it's going to be from last week's episode of Command Center, but in case you missed it, I do want to talk about some of the keynotes from that. So let's get started on the ESF updates. There are new nose cannons for each faction. The TR has the M18 Locust, the NC has the M20 Kestrel, and the VS has the Antares LC. These weapons feature a larger magazine that reduces how often they need to be reloaded. This allows for fewer missed opportunities when engaging fast-moving targets. And it doesn't really say the downside for having the bigger magazine. I don't know if they're going to do less damage or what. Again, I'm not an ESF expert by any means. Now, there are new wing mount weapons for all ESFs as well. There's the Coyote missiles, and Coyote missiles fire a volley of small, light damaging missiles. If they get close to a hostile aircraft, they will then lock on and seek towards that target. I've heard a little bit about these. Basically, to lock on, you have to be really close, and you still have to sort of lead your target. That's pretty much all I know. And then there are also Hornet missiles, and these are laser guided missiles that will fly towards the pilot's crosshairs. So you fire them and then you can kind of guide them afterwards. These sound pretty fun, actually. Even though I don't fly ESFs, I'll probably try these out just to see what they're like. And there are two new certification lines. There's Engagement Radar. And Engagement Radar is a low-cost certification that goes into the utility slot. It provides pilots with increased situational awareness against other aircraft by displaying indicators over nearby enemy aircraft. This indicator will also clamp to the edge of the screen if the target goes off screen, showing the pilot which direction to go if they want to give chase. And that's something I think I'm going to look into, because honestly, I'm a horrible pilot, and that's why you guys never see me fly. And I'll be honest, I don't give it much of an effort. But one of the major things that happens to me when I'm flying is I lose where the aircraft is. It's just something I do. So this is something I'm actually kind of looking forward to playing around with. And then the other new certification line is the external afterburner fuel tanks. Afterburner fuel tanks now have a certification line. Ranking up fuel tanks increases both fuel capacity and fuel replenishment rate. Another thing I'm actually looking forward to, simply because I use my ESFs as just transportation. Probably 75% of the time I'm in an ESF. It's for transportation. So that's all the new stuff, and we do have some changes to existing weapons and certification lines. First, the Tomcat missiles are air-to-air missiles that now require the lock to be maintained. The pilot needs to keep the target in their crosshairs until the missile hits. If the target leaves the crosshairs for too long, then the lock will be lost. So that's adding a little bit more skill to the air-to-air rockets. They also added a lock-on loss angle to missiles in flight. If a locked missile finds that its target is more than 145 degrees turn away, then the lock will be lost. And I read that kind of funny, but that's cool. That means you can kind of dodge air-to-air missiles now. The max travel distance of a fired rocket has been reduced from 1,250 to 1,000 meters. Lock-on acquire time reduced from 2.5 to 2 seconds. That's probably due to the maintaining of the lock. And the default ammo capacity increased from 5 to 6. Ammo resupply now gives 2 missiles per tick. The stock afterburners have been changed. The stock fuel replenishment rate reduced by 15%. This means that it takes about 1 second longer to replenish from 0 to full. The cost of engaging the afterburner when in hover mode has been increased. This fuel cost is only applied once when the afterburner button is hit. This consumes 0.5 seconds worth of fuel. The scout radar has been changed as well. Scout radars will now give detect experience to the vehicle driver. ESF fire suppression has been modified. They increased the amount of damage repaired by fire suppression on ESFs from 3, 6, 9, and 12 to 6, 12, 20, and 25. So that's a pretty drastic change if you do use the fire suppression. And it says, no, this change does not apply to the fire suppression cert line and other vehicles. So that's it for the ESF news. I did go through that rather quickly. I'll leave the patch notes, of course, in the description if you want to look at it in more detail. Now, there are some balance changes as well. They added the following resist types to Heavy Assault Resist Shield: vehicle grenades, vehicle shotguns, the Vortex AV-C3, the Vortex AV-C2, Liberator indirect damage, Lancer AV, anti-aircraft machine gun, and flak projectile. So the heavy assault resist shield will be a little bit better. Infantry flak armor now resists Lancer and charged vortex damage. The VS shotgun slug velocity now matches the velocity of the other two factions. So those are it for the balance changes. Not a whole lot there. Definitely the biggest changes is to the resist shield. We also have some depot changes. They updated the bundle item preview buttons on the selected item and bundle purchase screens to make it more obvious that they are buttons that lead to the preview, and heroic boosts are now permanently available in the boost section of the depot. So if you ever missed out on the heroic boost and you were looking to get one of those, they're now available in the depot. And lastly, for the update, we do have a list of bug fixes. I'll go through them very quickly. Fixed instances of flashing in the Ameris Sky file on some graphics settings. Fixed an issue with squad filters filtering by page, causing misleading results. Stationary and deployed vehicles will no longer slide when on inclined surfaces. I really like that one. Fixed an issue where HUD timers for primary and secondary objectives stop updating when you open a UI screen. VS max bodies should no longer turn about 90 degrees when crouched. Underbarrel grenade launchers reload animation now lines up with the weapon. Fixed missing reload animation for the NS7 PDW. That was kind of a funny little glitch they had in there. The bolt action animation for VS sniper rifles should no longer block the player's view. That's something all VS snipers should be happy about. That was brought up on the forums a couple times, and yeah, that's a nice change. Adjusted the position of misplaced tank guards in LS Amp Station. Jump pad at Manny Fortress. Jump you to the Biolab onto the jump pad back to Manny Fortress. Some of these I don't think they proofread, or either that or I can't read. They closed up some collision issues in Biolabs, allowing light assaults to attack from unattended areas. You should no longer be able to get under the Rinks collision. When another player is talking in voice chat, the indicator that displays at the bottom of the screen will no longer overlap your weapons info in the centralized HUD. The heat gauge and name of the turret are no longer overlapping each other in the centralized HUD. Fixed issues where AMS Sunders were not animating when being deployed. Fixed issues where some VS Max projectiles were missing lights and sound. Adjusted NC Sunder and Harasser colors. Fixed the lock-on reduction buff, sometimes being lost when the vehicle comes from outside of awareness range. Fixed pop after firing a SMG while aimed. Jumping will pull character out of iron sights. That's kind of a odd thing. I don't know if that's like a fix or a complete change. They fixed field of view being stretched in certain resolutions. It is now back to how it was before Performance Update 02. And finally, they added a new wide view mode option under graphics setting. This option auto-adjusts field of view to fit wider resolutions. So a lot of little bug fixes, big ESF update, that's the main thing, and you know, there were a few balancing things as well. As you can see, this update is a lot bigger than last week's update, and they said they were going to make them increasingly bigger, and this is probably 4 times the size of last week. So this is good. If they can do something like this every week, I think this game is in a good place. So now that we have the update out of the way, we do have some news tidbits. Most of this is going to come from last week's Command Center. I watched it. I didn't have a chance to put it in last week's update video because it came out the same day, and it was just a scheduling conflict for me to be able to get through the whole video and still put it in that update. So I'm just going to go over this stuff real fast. A lot of this you might have heard if you've been paying attention to Reddit or the forums, but some of it you may not have, and I will leave the link to Command Center 21 in the description if you guys want to check it out for yourself. But they did say the Infiltrator update will be in February. That is very awesome news, and I will cover this more in depth after I cover the rest of the little news tidbits. But that's great news. They did say the Liberator update will be next vehicle to be updated, and that will follow the Infiltrator update. Just some more little stuff that they went over. Spawning in squad-owned Sundays and Gals is going to be a thing in the future. They haven't really hashed out all the details or really told all the details as far as I know, but that's a pretty cool idea. I'm kind of excited for that. They did say, or actually they didn't say, but they flashed a NS Colossus tank on the screen. And for those of you that didn't play Planetside 1 like me, I guess the NS Colossus tank is a 3-person tank. It is just, supposedly it's pretty massive. There's really no details out on that whatsoever, but I am looking forward to that, and I'm not even really a tanker, so to say, or so to speak. But that's pretty cool. They wanted to make sure that everybody knows there is no release date for Planetside 2 on the PS4, and they also mentioned that there never was a release date, and some people are saying they keep pushing it back, but there never was a release date, and you got to understand with a game like that on console, it's never been done, and you know they got to get it right, or else it's probably going to lose a lot of potential players. So hopefully they do that right and take their time with it. They mentioned that Frere Amp, the design of Frere Amp, if you haven't played on Frere Amp lately since they redesigned it, it's very heavily infantry oriented. It's quite a different design than any other amp station. I actually like it myself. But they said they're going to be moving that to other continents, or that style is going to be on other continents soon as well. And they're also working on other layouts for amp stations that will be coming soon. So that's something to look forward to. They did mention that voice packs are going to be available in the depot to buy, so everybody's not going to have the same monotone voice. I don't know if there's going to be any free ones, but I know you will at least be able to buy them. They also mentioned that the warp gate is going to be rotated every 2 weeks, or at least that's the plan. I'm not exactly sure how often they rotate it right now, but to me, the more often they rotate it, the better. It just keeps things a little more fair, because some warp gates do seem to have quite a bit more of an advantage over some of the other ones. And then something that was not mentioned in Command Center but has popped up on the test server is that the implant slot is actually in there next to the melee slot now. So that might be something that's coming sooner than we expected. I haven't heard too much as far as details on that, but that's cool. I'm hoping that comes sooner than later, because any type of character diversity is something I like, and any type of you know, just going into character development and customizing your character is stuff that I'm really big on. So that's pretty much it. Most of that did come from Command Center 21. Sorry, you guys probably heard a lot of that already. But the one thing I'm really excited for is the Infiltrator update. And there are a lot of details on that on the roadmap, and I will leave the link to that as well. But I'm going to go over them real quick just to give you guys a heads up of what's coming. And I hope you guys are excited for this as I am. So I'm basically just going to read these word for word what it says. Basically it says the goal is to add more reconnaissance, team play tools, and more loadout choices to the Infiltrator class, which is good. It's something we're kind of lacking. They have added they are adding 4 new weapons. They're going to add 1 faction unique bolt action rifle. So it actually says here that the TR bolt action is going to feature the highest magazine size. The VS is going to feature higher mobility when compared to the other bolt action sniper rifles, and the NC is going to feature the highest damage. I'm a little confused as to what all this actually means. Take the NC for example. You got a bolt action that's going to do more damage. Well, if they're all going to be one-hit kill headshots, I don't really see the point. But you don't know. I mean, if I don't foresee them adding a one-hit kill body shot type sniper rifle, that would instantly get scream nerfed, no matter how gimped it would be in other spots, I think. So I don't see that happening. As far as the VS higher mobility, obviously none of the weapons slow you down currently when running, so I don't really know what that means either. So I'm really looking forward to checking these out. Higby did tweet out asking what you would like to see in an Empire specific bolt action rifle. So maybe they're not even finished yet. Maybe they're looking for ideas and they're going to play around with some of the community's ideas, which I'm sure there's a lot of them out there. There are some posts on Reddit And I haven't read through them all, but you guys usually do come up with some good ideas. And then they are adding one shared semi-auto sniper rifle for the aggressive forward snipers. So looking forward to using that as well. As far as new tools, they're adding the recon drone, and we knew about this quite a while ago. It says this remote controlled flying drone will allow infiltrators to safely gather intel and spot enemies from a distance. Enemies will be able to shoot the drone down to prevent the intel gathering. Now honestly, I'm not that excited for this. Sounds very similar to the MAV in Battlefield 4, which is something that I didn't particularly like using. The funnest part of that was that you could roadkill people with it. I have no idea if you'll be able to do that in this, but honestly, I don't like leaving my character vulnerable to be able to do something like that. So, not so sure I'm looking forward to that. Next, we have the motion sensor, and it says this tool will give more detailed information when compared to the recon detect device, but it can only be placed at the infiltrator's current location, unlike the detect tool, which can be fired to a forward location. So maybe this will actually show, maxes and stuff like that on a mini map. And also, this will be a great tool for snipers who can put this down and have a constant alert on the map if anybody's trying to approach them, rather than trying to fire darts at the right time. I don't know if you'll be able to pick this up. It doesn't say. I would assume so. So it can actually be used by a more aggressive infiltrator as well if you can pick it up. So this will actually be a pretty good tool, I think. Now, new loadout choices. We have the Stalker Cloak, which we knew about as well. It says when equipped, the Stalker Cloak allows the player to regen their ability meter while cloaked, but the regen will only activate when completely stationary. Moving will cause the cloak meter to be consumed, just like the other two cloak types. The player cannot equip a primary weapon when this is equipped. So this is going to be a pistol only cloak that you can essentially be cloaked as long as you want if you are staying still. This is going to be really cool for situations like if you watched my last Infiltrator montage where I was running around with the commissioner and shot knifing people. This will allow you to actually just stay completely stationary, regain your shield, and go about your business. I'm looking forward to using this a lot. I'm not necessarily convinced it's going to be better than Hunter Cloak in most situations, but I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I think it'll give a really nice alternative to the infiltrators that really just want to get in and hack stuff. I think this will be really good for that. And then the last thing, not the last thing, the second to last thing, the bolt attachment. This attachment will allow the bolt action rifles to chamber the next round while still scoped. And again, if you played Battlefield 4, this sounds just like a straight pull bolt. I don't think there's any downside to it. It sounds like it's something that every sniper will have equipped on their sniper rifles, and it'll be a really good attachment, good upgrade for snipers. As far as I know, there's no downside to it. And then the last thing is the adrenaline pump. We're adding the adrenaline pump cert line to the infiltrator to match it being a lighter class. So that sounds like it could be really worthless if they just added into the suit slot where the light assault's adrenaline pump is. I don't know any light assaults that use the adrenaline pump. I just don't see any reason why you would use it on either of the classes over, nano armor, or nano weave, or advanced shield capacitor. Pretty much anything. I wouldn't be running this. Now, if it's a separate cert line, that would be really cool. I don't foresee them doing that, but that would be pretty kick-ass if they did. So anyways, that is the Infiltrator update, or currently what's on the roadmap, and I will leave you a link to that in the description as well. But that is all I have. I apologize for this being so long, but there is a lot to cover this week. With the ESF updates and everything, there's just a lot to go over. Normally I plan on keeping these quite a bit shorter, but that about wraps it up. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll talk to y'all later.
One.